My name is Marsha Barsky, and I am an associate professor, and I serve as chair of the Department of Dance in the College of the Arts. I am a dance educator, choreographer, somatic practitioner, and teacher of the Alexander Technique. My early work as a dancer was to follow a pathway familiar to many dancers. I trained in ballet in my youth, and then in my early 20s, I discovered the joys of modern dance. This was a revelatory time for me because it gave me a new level of freedom to explore movement in my own ways. I loved ballet and I still do, but I feel that modern dance provided exciting new ways of thinking about movement. One of my principal aims as a dance educator is to cultivate somatic-based learning environments so that students develop, integrate, and hone a holistic, embodied sense of self. Somatic is a term coined by philosophy professor and movement educator Thomas Hanna and refers to the unification of the entire body, mind, environment, and spirit. By increasing somatic awareness, it is possible to recognize inefficient habitual patterns of movement and move with more ease, freedom, and expressivity. As a teacher of dance technique, I strive to help students connect their dance movements to their ongoing thoughts, sensations, and perceptions in order to help them achieve their artistic potential. I have discovered that these objectives are readily attainable in dance technique classes and in somatic-specific courses, but the process is more challenging during the dance rehearsal, where I often assume the role of both choreographer and teacher. In an effort to design a somatic-based learning environment that supports the rehearsal process, I have delved into works that consider self-other relations and the conveyance of meaning through embodied movement. This is a vast area of work that has been considered in realms including philosophy, pedagogy, and psychology. This work falls under an array of rubrics including action theory, performance studies, phenomenology, somatics, and other approaches to internal mind-body dialogue, feedback, and listening. One of the main ideas in all of my somatic work is that there is a kind of dialogue that exists within the self and between the self and the environment. The inner dialogue helps us to think about our actions in ways connected to such categories as sensation, perception, autoregulation, feedback, and listening. This inner dialogue can emanate beyond the self and into the environment in which the self is situated. To account for this approach to dance making, I found value in imagining the process as an example of dialogism, a crucial term associated with the philosophical writings of Mikhail Bakhtin. Bakhtin has a lot to say about how people interact in space and in time through a category of his work known as the chronotope. This is one of Bakhtin's major contributions to philosophical work, and for it he draws from two distinct, but in his sense related realms, chronos and topos. Chronos, or time, is always part of topos, or space, and all spaces are infused with time. This means that we cannot separate time and space, so we always have to be aware of how we are situated therein. This leads to another one of his crucial terms, situatedness, which demands that we consider where someone is in regards to ourselves, where they are situated relative to us, in time and in space. The other has the same experience of considering how she is situated in regards to the other, a practice that increases our awareness of self, of other, and the self-other relationship inside a broader framework. Discovering the work of Bakhtin was eye-opening since he posed many of the questions that were interesting for me from a more philosophical perspective. Bakhtin lived from 1895 to 1975, and much of his crucial early work was developed in the modern period, pretty much in conjunction with the development of modern dance. His overall interest was what he called a philosophy of everyday life, in which he thought deeply about how language is situated not just on a linguistic plane, but in the entire body. For dance education, It is helpful to integrate Bakhtin's work alongside a movement practice that is quite well known in the realms of the performing arts, the Alexander Technique. This technique was developed by Frederick Matthias Alexander over 100 years ago, in the very same period as Bakhtin's work. Alexander was an actor and a teacher who developed an educational process to movement and thinking that allows the student to recognize inefficient patterns of movement caused by chronic tension, overuse, or misuse of muscles. Since both men were near contemporaries, there are interesting overlaps in the ways they consider the dynamics of interaction, particularly in performance. In my recent research, I've focused on the rehearsal process as a vibrant space for accessing somatic sensibilities, because this is the space in which the student actually learns and experiences the work. My training in the Alexander Technique enriches and enhances the rehearsal experience in the studio. For instance, I've noticed that for students who are new to somatic practices, finding an embodied sense of self during rehearsal can be very difficult. By helping dancers understand their situatedness, I can offer guidance that exceeds the simple transmission of the choreographic material. I hope that this research helps inspire dance makers to consider the ways in which they are creating a space for embodied rehearsals, and thereby enliven conscious movement experiences, psychophysical unity, and mindfulness in action.